everybody, Ben Woodruff here with another falconry video. Today's video, I'm going to be talking about footing, about talons of raptors and footing. What do you do if you get grabbed by a raptor? How do you get out of that situation? What do you do for your safety and the bird's safety? So with birds of prey, with raptors, if we're being really specific here, if you're not familiar with them, you're new to falconry, you're new to birds, most birds peck or bite. And that's kind of the concern. Oh, could it bite? Like think about a parrot, big, enormous, huge beaks, right? And that's what people think about. People worry, oh, does your hawk bite? Does your eagle bite? And of course, anything with a mouth can bite. We don't worry about that. We worry about the feet, the talons. The talons are the claws themselves. And people say, what's the difference between a talon and a claw? Well, how it's used. Most claws on most birds are just kind of there, or they dig in a little bit. They're kind of hooks if you're holding onto a tree, but they don't have a lot of grip force. A talon is a claw that has a toe with tendon pole behind it that grips with incredible force. And the reason for that is because raptors kill with their feet, not their beak. Pelican catches a fish with its beak. A great blue heron, same thing. Great blue heron's going to catch a fish with its beak. And most birds that hunt, shrikes and siriemas, things like that, most things will do a lot of killing with their beak. But raptors use their feet. But this video is going to show kind of the different groups, the different taxons of raptors and how their feet are different, and then what to do if you get grabbed. So first of all, if you're looking at the feet of any raptor, they might seem skinny. You're like, that's what you're going to kill with? And those toes might look a little bit gangly and weak. But you got to remember, when you're looking at fingers, even on your hand, this is not where the strength of your grip comes from on your hand. It comes from right here. There are muscles here attached to these tendons. You can see them, right? And a muscle will grip and it will pull that tendon down. The bigger your forearm is, the more grip you have. You could have the skinniest fingers on earth, and if you have a big forearm, you have a tremendous grip. It's the same thing with raptors, but even amplified. The part of their leg that drives the grip of their feet is actually high up on the body. You don't even see it. Usually there's feathers covering it, but it pulls tendons that grip, and they ratchet. When they lock in, they actually have a ratchet, and they can lock in, and if you're pulling it out, you can hear click, 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 click. So they don't have to maintain an intense pressure. They can just grip and leave it. But they can also foot until the prey stops wiggling. So no matter how skinny a raptor's feet are, just remember that it's the muscles that are hidden up higher by the body that are driving that. So don't underestimate a raptor and get hurt. So first we're going to take a look at falcons. Falcons are bird hunters. There's exceptions, but most falcons hunt birds. They have long, skinny toes, and the talons are not very long themselves. Now, falcons have 3 long toes and a very, very short toe in back with the longest talon for them. That's because most falcons catching birds in the air will dive or stoop and knock the bird out, hit its neck, hit its spine, kill it on impact. Then the bird falls to the ground, falcon gets on the ground, the prey might still be struggling, and then they have these long toes to hold on to their prey, and they have a special notch in their beak that they use to snap the neck of their prey, dispatch it, and then they start eating. So this is more of security. Now, a falcon can catch a bird out of the air with those long toes, but oftentimes they're just using those rear talons. So tremendous force, but pound for pound, gram for gram, however you want to look at it, falcons have kind of the weakest grip compared to other raptors the same size. If you took a hawk and a falcon the same size, the hawk has more gripping pressure, but falcons have comparatively longer toes to grip a bird in open country out of the air in a dive. Now the next one would be your buzzards or your buteos, the soaring hawks like a red-tailed hawk or a ferruginous hawk, rough-legged hawk, any of these, which again, that's the American terms. We should be saying red-tailed buzzard, ferruginous buzzard, rough-legged buzzard, but it's America, what are you going to do? But buzzards have short, thick toes, and if you're looking at their feet, their inner talons are very long and their rear talons are very long. These are the primary dispatching talons, and the outer 2 toes have shorter talons. But the toes are short and the toes are thick. And again, the thickness of the toe is not to give strength, because again, remember, that's muscles up higher against the body. The thicker toes allow some kind of padding, some fatty tissue and some muscle that can withstand a rodent's bite. So if a red tail dives down and catches a big rat or something, a muskrat even, and it turns around and it's biting the red tail's toes, or a squirrel, tree squirrel, ground squirrel, any of those things, a prairie dog, they have these chisel-like teeth and thicker toes can withstand that sort of impact much better, where a falcon's skinny little toes, if it did that, could get bit clean off. So tremendous of the raptors, pound for pound, save eagles. Your buteos, your buzzards have the strongest grip of the birds we're talking about, other than eagles, and they just tremendous crunching force. And again, I'm gonna explain what to do if you get grabbed in a minute. The next one are your accipiters, or the true hawks, birds like a goshawk, a sparrowhawk, a cooper's hawk. These are bird hunters, but they hunt entirely differently than a big falcon. Falcons are open country birds hunting smaller birds, and they want to dive and catch them out of the air, knocking them and breaking their spine on impact. A bird like a goshawk is hiding in the forest, and it's waiting and it's looking around. Oh, hey, there's a blue jay. It wants to grab it. It's not trying to make a pass and having its impact dispatch the prey. It wants to just grab it, take it to the ground. The toes on accipiters are skinny, but the talons are ridiculously long because they're not hitting a bird on impact, they're grabbing it, and when birds on their backs and their rumps and all their fluff is built to poof out and to dissuade a glancing talon from impaling the bird. And so you have to have longer talons and grip to actually pierce through that dense layer of protective feathers on these smaller birds that a bird like a goshawk would hunt. These grips are very painful and are some of the deepest puncture wounds you can get. And again, I'll get into a second on what to do about those. The next one is owls. And I'm not going to go through all the owls because there are so many different ways that owls grip. The biggest one you got to worry about that is seen most often in falconry and in wildlife education and zoos are members of the eagle owl family. So this would be birds like great horned owls and Eurasian eagle owls, pharaonic eagle owls, Faroe's eagle owls. All of these, the members of the eagle owl family, have a much more powerful grip. Now their toes are zygodactyl, which means one of the toes, I should say, not one of the talons, can go forward or backwards. So they can have 3 toes in front and 1 in back, like all other raptors, or they can do 2 in front and 2 in back, which covers a broader area when they're hunting. Now their grip force is formidable. They have tremendous. I had a female Eurasian eagle owl one time from a breeding project, was untrained, and when I first got her, I put her on an old 2x4 kind of perch. It's just like set her down for a second. She was mad, and she started gripping, and she started crunching and shredding through the 2x4. So they do have tremendous force, but the angle of impact of the talon is different than any other raptor. You think about an accipiter, it's gripping. You think about a red-tailed hawk, it's gripping. The way that members of the eagle owl family impale is they start to dig in with the talon, but then pretend my whole hand is a talon. The whole talon folds over, and then the toe rolls in. So you got 4 talons with 4 toes, fold, and roll in. It is agonizing to get grabbed by such a bird, and one of the most difficult types of birds to unravel. So I'll tell you in a second what to do. The last one, of course, would be eagles. Both false eagles, like sea eagles, like a bald eagle or stellar sea eagle, white-tailed sea eagle, African fish eagle, and then the true eagles, like golden eagles, which golden eagle grips you, heaven help you. They're very powerful. Bald eagles will take out some very large prey. They do have tremendous grip force, but they're mostly hunting large fish, where golden eagles hunt prey up to the size of wolves and deer. They don't fly away with them. Ever look up in the sky, what's that? And see some deer, I'm like, oh, it's the eagles are at it again. You don't see that, but they have the gripping force, up to 1,200 pounds of crushing grip per square inch that they can exert. And if you're on the receiving end of that, you're going to know it. You're going to remember it. The worst thing is you don't even get a good scar, because again, raptors do not slash, they impale. And so you don't even get a good bragging scar. So any of these birds, What should you do if you get grabbed? Well, first of all, you shouldn't get grabbed. Falconry has been around for thousands of years. The techniques we use, the equipment we use, the training we do has been selectively honed in for thousands of years, and it works. If you're doing things right, and you're not rushing and you're not being sloppy, then you probably are not going to get grabbed. But eventually, something happens, something unexpected. You let your guard slip in a situation with a couple birds together, or who knows? Most of the times, I've helped out with wildlife rehabilitation, and there's been instances where I've been grabbed the worst with that. But also food. Just if you are being sloppy and you're feeding a bird quickly, and they're being aggressive towards food, if you get somehow accidentally mixed in that unintentionally, the bird's not trying to hurt you, but you are intermixed with the food, now you got a problem on your hands. So eventually you do falconry long enough, sometimes it's going to happen that you're going to get grabbed. But again, prevention is the best medicine. But if you do have a bird grabbing onto you, first of all, slow down, don't react. The bird's not doing anything wrong. The bird is just, you can't say bad bird, it's not like a dog or something. It's very different. You have to be respectful. You have to calm down, have presence of mind, and be like, I'm in a bad situation. I need to get this situation under control. What do you need to get under control? First of all, take a look at the bird. Make sure the bird is safe and secure, and if it's grabbing you with one foot, make sure the other foot is secure, because the second you start to try to undo or hold a bird in a not normal way, then it's like, might think it's being attacked and react and grab with the other foot. Now you got a bigger problem. It's always best if you have somebody there to help. You can calmly guide them and say, hey, can you help me out? And here's what I need you to do, and explain it to them. If they have just one or two talons in, make sure the other foot's okay, and make sure the other two talons are secure and not going to grip in. If you are trying to pull a talon out just mechanically, you got to make sure that once a talon is out, that it is secure, because sometimes they will then turn around and grip it right back into you. So the first thing is you can technically just pull a talon out at a time. The bigger the bird, the harder that is. But like I said, just make sure every item, every talon is accounted for and secured. But there's a couple of other techniques that can work very, very well. The first one is kind of the falling instinct, which is if a bird gets a sensation of dropping or falling, their body tells them, oh no, falling, I'm going to crash. I should let go of anything I'm holding on to. I should open my wings, recenter myself, and start flying. And so if you have a bird in you, especially if you're alone, maybe stand up on a chair or a rock and then kind of jump down. Make sure you're securing the bird so the bird's okay. But usually you do that a time or two and they're like, ah! And they just have that stimulus response of, oh no, let go. And then you're good. Way easier to have a bird remove its own talons from you rather than you trying to pry them out from your flesh. The second method uses a similar principle, and that is to induce vertigo. Vertigo is that kind of loss of balance and loss of having a kind of a horizon level and aligning yourself with the center of gravity. So what you do is, and again, this is much better if you have somebody helping you, is you take the head and you gently start tipping it backwards. Now, nothing dramatic, just very gently rolling the head backwards. And what that does is it elicits a sense of vertigo, and it's the same thing as dropping. The bird goes, wait, what's going on? I'm falling. And they will usually just let go. It can work really, really well. So those are kind of the basics. But in any situation, clean out the wound. If you've been punctured, clean out the wound. You want to push out and try to induce bleeding. Sometimes even a deep impale wound, the talons can be so narrow that sometimes it doesn't even bleed out. And again, talons usually aren't the cleanest things, so you want to induce any bleeding that you can to get those white blood cells to be clearing out, and then clean it out. Try not to get any infection. And no, you're going to hurt probably for several days. Your hand or wherever you got grabbed is going to swell and be very, very sore, but it'll go away eventually. You're not going to get much sympathy from people because you'll be like, look at this little tiny puncture wound. And you're like, I can barely move my hand. It's like, doesn't look bad at all. But it's important to always remember, keep your cool, make sure the safety of the bird is first and foremost, and your safety comes right after. You have to be calm. You have to learn how to sit with that pain and work your way through it. Once the bird is removed and secure and safe, then you can cry or scream or, let out your emotions. but not in that moment. It's not going to help you. It's not going to help the bird. It's not going to help anyone or anything. Again, prevention is the best way. So just a little refresher. I know I've kind of talked on some of these points before. Again, all of them, the same principles. Owls, where they fold, if you're going to try to pry them out, you're definitely going to need a second person to help you because it just gets rough. But if you haven't already, if you hit subscribe and help support this channel, that really is a huge help for me. Let me know in the comments any questions or ideas for future videos you have. And as always, happy hawking.